take us through the economy, what we're seeing, and what he could anticipate for next year. We welcome now Douglas Holtz-Eakin. He's president of the American Action Forum and former director of the Congressional Budget Office. Doug, Happy New Year, first of all. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
If this last year was a year we actually admitted we had a big problem with inflation, is next year going to be the year when we fix it?
Oh, I think we can make considerable progress in 2023, but if you think back to when Chairman Powell first announced the sort of tightening strategy way back in March, he talked about getting it done by 2024. I mean, he actually put it 3 years as the time it would take to get back to the target. So when you're thinking about this problem, you can't think about it in quarters or months. You got to think about it in terms of years. If we have the core down to something like 3.5 by the end of 2023, that should be considered a big success.
Well, is the Fed having an effect? Because I read a note this morning, actually, that said it is having an effect on things like housing, goodness knows. Housing has really turned south. Yep. Autos, and some other places. You're starting to see some real effects of the rates.
I think the Fed's having a real impact, no question about it. There's a lot of work left to be done. I thought the reaction to the most recent CPI report was a bit premature spiking of the football. I mean, we still have core essential spending, food, energy, and shelter rising at nearly 9% a year, year over year. That's a big number. If you look at the stance of the Fed, the target rate is still below inflation expectations 1 year out, so we got a negative real target. None of that adds up to having a big success that says we can quit. So the Fed has to stay at this and continue to really focus on service sector inflation, especially the shelter number that is driving the top line much more than the goods. They're having a big impact on the goods market, but this 2022 was the year of services inflation, and 2023 has to be the year they fix it.
So, Doug, the numbers you described show inflation, if that's right, coming down, but still well above that 2% rank. What is the Fed's response likely to be to that? Can they be patient and wait for it to come back, or is there a danger of a policy error here?
There's a real danger of a policy error. The way the Fed has structured its decision-making, it has said that they are not going to, believe economists that it's going to come down. They're going to wait to see a distinct downward turn in measured inflation before they contemplate easing. And they've said repeatedly that the mistake that was made in the late 70s, early 80s under the Volcker Fed was to ease prematurely, and they will not make that mistake. So that just sets you up for a policy error, because the data came in with somewhat of a lag, so you're looking backward to begin with. The shelter number in particular moves slowly. It's probably softer for new rents right now than we're seeing in the measured shelter index. And all of that adds up to a backward-looking approach that says you might over-tighten. I think that's a real risk in 2023.
Well, and it sounds to me like a recession comes along with that risk, does it not?
Yeah. I think a recession does come along with that risk. The thing I'm looking for, unlike most people, is focus on business spending. I mean, people are, I think, taking the wrong lesson away from the pandemic recession, where the household did, in fact, lead us into the recession. That's the only post-war recession where household spending led to the downturn. In every other recession, it's business spending that goes down. Households follow about a quarter or two later. So keep a close eye on CapEx and the CEOs, not the consumer confidence, but the CEO confidence. And there are some issues there, and it's worth watching carefully.
So to some extent, Washington's been spending its time watching the Fed, saying, Fed, good luck to you. We hope you take care of it. Yeah. But what are the possible policy responses from Congress or the administration that might actually make things a bit better?
Look, I'll be honest. I don't think we should look for discretionary fiscal policy out of the U.S. Congress and the administration in response to any recession we might enter in 2023. I mean, it would be mild. The Fed has the tools to ease quickly. It can stop the quantitative tightening. It can lower the target rates. It can move much more quickly and nimbly than any Congress and administration can. And I think if you reflect back, among the best years of growth were the 80s and 90s, where we really used fiscal policy to set the incentives for long-run growth, and we let the Fed take care of short-run fluctuations. We got away from that in the 21st century. I'm not exactly sure why, but if you think back, we did discretionary fiscal policy in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2005, 2008, again in 2010 with the Recovery Act, big response with the CARES Act. That's not a uniformly successful record. There's a lot of years of poor performance there. So it's worth thinking hard about whether we want to get back in the business trying to fine-tune the economy.
Well, let me ask you one specific question, because you talked about business spending, and that would be really critically important. We do have these so-called Trump tax cuts that are due to expire.
Right.
That do give incentives, I understand it, to business for certainly capital investment.
I think it would be a good idea to make those permanent. I think that the highlight of the 2017 Act was the reforms to business taxation. The multinational taxation really put our firms on an even playing field with other international firms, much more than had been true before. We haven't lost a headquarters since the 2017 reform. I mean, this sort of speaks volumes for how effective that was. And it did give better investment incentives. So I think getting the R&D expense, getting the sort of depreciation fixed over the long term, it should be a top priority for this next Congress, would benefit both small and large businesses.
So, Doug, let me also ask you about the debt. It's something you and I talk about periodically, and my sense is it's never quite the right time to deal with it, because we've got some problem right now. We'll deal with that later. When is the time to deal with it? Is there any prospect of actually people trying to address it finally?
Well, I think that really comes down to the White House. To do something on the debt that matters will have to be a bipartisan effort, and the White House leads bipartisan efforts. The best example is the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, where it really was going to die in the Senate twice, and the president personally resuscitated it, asked the Republicans what they needed in order to sign on, promised not to touch the 2017 Tax Act, which was their ask, and then he also really pressured House Democrats to get on board. That's the White House generating bipartisan legislation. They have to decide if they're going to do that in the next few years, or are they simply going to set up partisan fights and get ready to run for re-election. If they do the latter, we're not going to do anything serious on the debt. It'd be good to get started now, because the big issues, the Medicare Trust Fund, it's going to go bankrupt in 4 or 5 years. The Social Security Trust Fund, a decade out. Those should be dealt with now, so that people who are retiring know the deal as they go into their retirement.
Doug, one last one. Looking forward to next week. Obviously, we have a new Congress. We also, believe it or not, get our first jobs numbers of 2023 on Friday. Tell us about the jobs market, because it seems to be remarkably resilient. Does the Fed need that to weaken some?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that gets lost is the sustained high inflation, which has been stubborn, and the hot jobs market are flip sides of the same coin. So we're not going to see the wage pressures in the service sector, and thus service sector inflation, come down until the job market cools somewhat. And it has cooled somewhat, but the emphasis is on somewhat. We haven't seen any real dramatic slowdown in job creation, any real big jump in initial claims, as you mentioned at the outset, still at historic lows. We haven't even seen the job openings go away the way we thought they would. So the Fed's going to be looking to see if there's any evidence that their efforts have really cooled off the market a little bit.
Okay, Doug, it's always such a pleasure, really informative to have you with us. That is Douglas Holtz-Eakin.